Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, CMMC Impacts on Your Microsoft Dynamics 365 Implementation. My name is Ali Diallo, and I will be the host of today's session. Please note that all lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. This session is being recorded, and a link to the webinar will be shared afterwards. If you would like to ask a question, you may do so via the chat feature in your GoToWebinar dashboard. If time allows, we will review those questions at the end of the session. All questions will be entered anonymously. I will now turn the session over to our presenter, Sean Sinnott, Columbus, US Microsoft Dynamics 365 Head of Architects.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, Ali. As Ali was saying, my name is Sean Sinnott. I've been with Columbus Global for a few years now as a lead solution architect and now the D365 head of architects. Today, we are going to be talking about CMMC impacts to your implementation. We're going to talk really briefly about what CMC is, why it's important, and really how it's going to impact your project. So, quick overview of the agenda. What is CMMC? Who needs to follow it? What is CUI? This is something that's really important. How it'll affect your implementation, and what is Microsoft doing about it specifically? And where do I find more info? Please do, we'll go through the slides somewhat quickly. If any of you are familiar with this at all, I'm assuming you have some questions. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. So I am hoping that we'll have time for Q&A at the end of the session. Okay, and I apologize for a lot of the verbiage here on this slide, but it's really, really important. So what is CMMC, right? The Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification establishes and verifies that companies within the defense industrial base are implementing cybersecurity measures to protect federal contract information and controlled unclassified information, that's CUI, within their networks, okay? So I'm not going to read the rest of this to you, but it is tiered. There is an assessment that is required, and you have to have contacts and contracts. Your government contracts are going to have to say that you have been certified for CMMC, okay? So the most important part that I've sort of have highlighted in this teal color is that CMMC is not going to be optional. All right, it is not optional for anyone that is dealing with the government in contracts. Most importantly, if you are dealing with the Department of Defense at all, there are a lot of regulations here, okay? So not optional. Everyone that has government contracts, especially those working with the Department of Defense, have to prepare for this, and we'll talk about it. So, there have been a lot of changes in CMMC. One of the challenges, right, to the implementation of doing this is that in September of 2020, CMMC 1.0 was released as a 5-tier certification level, depending upon what level you need to qualify for. So as you can imagine, they released version 1.0. They had something over 700 government contractors all raise the red flag and say, wait, what are you doing? We can't operate this, this way. It's too complicated. You need to do something about this. So November of 2021, they came out with CMMC Model 2.0, which is now a 3-tiered level, and it is really based on level 1, what they're calling the foundational level. That is something that anyone can do. It's mostly self-assessments and that sort of thing, getting yourself prepared. Level 2 is going to be a every 3-year third-party assessments for critical national security information. So most of the people will be under level 2, but level 3 is going to be for those dealing directly with the Department of Defense on critical military infrastructure or arms and ammunitions, right? And so level 3 is the most stringent. Let's talk about the timeline, and this is probably the question that everyone asks the most, and this is the most probably frustrating thing that I've personally dealt with in implementations dealing with CMMC. The changes reflected in CMMC2 will be implemented through a rule-making process, okay? So what that's saying and what that's not saying is right now, rules are not written. As a supplier to the government, you don't know what the rules are going to be for controlling your CUI and meeting regulations. They are being discussed, okay? Each particular department has the ability to make their own rules. Okay, so that means that if you deal with 2 government departments, each department can have its own set of rules, and you will need to meet both of them. Okay, there is currently no date, for implementing those rules. If you go to all the government websites having to deal with this, and I will give you those links at the end of the presentation, they are guessing right now that it's going to be anywhere from additional 9 to 24 months before those rules are written and implemented. But the flip side of that is that once those rules are written, you sort of immediately have to qualify for that. So the government is publishing all this information saying, get ready for it. Start now, because when those rules are written, every single contractor is going to have to be subject to those rules, right? So there will not be a grandfather period or anything like that. Okay, what is CUI and ITAR and that sort of thing? Controlled unclassified information is what CUI is, and all of this regulation is about controlled unclassified information. What kind of data can you have in your system, okay, that is considered, it's not classified, right? But it is controlled unclassified information that needs to be controlled. The challenge that I have had in the implementation that I'm currently working on dealing with this is that there is no list that says this particular information qualifies for CUI. I was helping my client. I am hoping to find a list that says a bomb on a purchase order is CUI, yes or no, right? What about a drawing as a part of the bomb? If it's just referenced and not shown, is that CUI, right? So this is going to be one of the most, I'm going to say, just frustrating parts of dealing with CMMC and CUI right now, is that since these rules haven't been defined, you really don't know what's going to qualify yet. Okay, I am working with a manufacturer that supplies the defense industry, and we are trying to figure out, does a bomb list classify as CUI? How do we treat the drawings? Can they be in the system as long as they're not emailed, right? So there are a lot of, I'd say, more questions right now than answers. And trust me, there are thousands of pages of documents that all sort of talk around the issue, but it's really, really hard to get to a specific list, okay? There are 60 business categories which are defined right now to have CUI data. And you can go to the sites and see that agricultural products are considered CUI, and those agricultural products might include fertilizer, okay? But they don't say what you do with that information. It just says this information is CUI. Okay, so let's talk about your cloud implementations right now. Obviously, this is a Dynamics D365 finance and supply chain conversation. And how are you going to be affected by this when you are choosing how to deploy your implementation? Most implementations are on the commercial cloud, right? The Azure commercial cloud. This is a great little chart. This is provided by Microsoft, all right? And they're saying that the data center locations can be, in the US. And it says whether they're, FedRAMP and DFARS and CUI data, right? So this is really important. CUI levels 3 to 5. Is this compliant, right? So the first thing that we looked at, right, is sort of say CUI data for level 3 is not protected, is not supported by the Azure Commercial Cloud. So that's obviously really, really important. When you get into ITAR, the International Trade of Arms, this is not supported, right? The NIST SP 853, and there's more acronyms and numbers and everything that has to do with this. So NIST SP 853 is controlled by, is in compliance, right? But ITAR is not, in CUI is not. Then you can go up to the GCC, the Government Commercial Cloud, okay, the government cloud, and you get some more, some more levels of security, DFARS, FCI. It says that CUI is covered, but then there's this little thing, ITAR, nuclear, et cetera, are not suitable, okay? Then they offer the GCC High Cloud. That is the most secure. That meets all the levels. Oops, I'm sorry. That meets all the levels. But the issues that you're going to see in another slide that I'm going to show you is that Microsoft's roadmap is going to say that right now they're making the effort that if your customer moves to a GCC High, their Microsoft Office products, what they're calling M365 products now, are covered. So your email is covered, Teams is included in that, Word and Excel and those sorts of things. But D365 is not covered. Sorry, I'm missing some slides here, so I apologize for that. Okay, let me pull up a couple other slides that I want to show you here. I apologize. Give me 1 second. I apologize. Pull up another slide deck. Okay, I apologize. I'm giving you a different view here. I'm going to blow this up a little bit. This is a slide that I had included in the deck. So what this is showing you, and I'm hoping that you can see it, is that under the GCC cloud, Dynamics 365 supply chain is included, is covered, it's compliant. In the GCC High, there is customer service, field service, project service, and sales enterprise professional. So D365 is not compliant with this cloud, right? And when you get to the Department of Defense, it is also not compliant. So we have been working with Microsoft very, very closely, trying to get their roadmap as to when here it is, when they are going to have Dynamics compliant on these clouds, right? So in the instance that that I'm working with right now, I've got a client that wants to have email, wants to have their Teams, wants to have all of their Office on the GCC High Cloud, but Dynamics Supply Chain is not included in that on the cloud. So then they're trying to make the decision, and we're working with Microsoft to sort of say who is in, how can we do both simultaneously. All right. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back into presentation mode for a second here. So thank you for. So there we are. Okay. All right. A couple of my slides have been hidden, so I apologize. Okay. So how is this going to affect your implementation? This is really important. If your business works with government contracts, you will be required to be in compliance. This is going to affect you. There's no size. It's like, well, I'm a small business, I'm a huge business. It's just like the government is saying, you know what, we've put ourselves at risk for too long from not having regulations. We are going to have these regulations. Microsoft is actively trying to engage partners to get them authorized and essentially certified by the CMMC advisory board, but the implementation partner that you're working with may not be certified actually to provide the CMMC certification. And so you might be forced to work with multiple partners if you're an end user that's doing an implementation that's going to be impacted by CMMC. This next point, very important, right? The regulations are changing faster than everyone else can keep up. So when they went from CMMC 1 to CMMC 2, that was a big change, and everyone was scrambling. And then if and when they come out with the CMMC 3, everyone is in the same boat, right? No one is ahead of this game. There isn't anyone who is knows more about this really than anyone else right now, because there are very, very, very few people who are really truly in on the ground floor. If they are a part of the CMMC advisory board, then they're the ones that are there making those decisions, but most partners don't have good visibility to this. Okay. Government is looking for early adopters, right, who are going to be on the leading edge of this compliance. The suppliers want to be able to go to the government and sort of say, hey, we're already starting this. We're already going down the path, right? So many suppliers feel that if they are on the leading edge of this, right, they might get more government business. As I was saying before, this project might require multiple Microsoft partners, and your solution may incorporate multiple environments to be in compliance, right? So if you've got your D365 on a commercial cloud tenant, and then you want another tenant to have all of your other things, right, you've got to work out even more integrations there. So the bottom line that we're coming to is that, how is this going to impact your implementation? It is going to impact your implementation if you're a government contractor. You're not really certain exactly how it's going to implement, how it's going to be affected, right, impacted by it, but it is, and you need to start preparing for it now so that you are not caught short when those rules are written. So like I said before, as soon as they introduce the rules, as soon as they say these are the rules that everyone needs to play by, every single contract from that time forward needs to meet those requirements, right? So this is something that you should be thinking about. As of today, Columbus, actually this is being provided by this webinar is being provided by Columbus. Columbus is not certified to provide CMMC certification, but this is something that I am working with Microsoft to get Columbus and myself certified so that we can do this. So again, there are other partners who are trying to get into this this certification process. It's sort of a new industry that has been created over the last year and a half. Okay, so I wanted to just sort of show you some of the important links and references. These will be included, of course, in the presentation that you will be sent at the end of this. Microsoft, I've listed some of the links about what Microsoft is doing about it, right? So this this particular slide, right, came from Microsoft. This slide came from Microsoft as well. The National Archives actually has the list about controlled unclassified information. So you'll want to go there. The CMMC model certification, here's a couple of other links. National Archives also has, when I was referencing that there are 60 particular business categories that fit under CUI regulations, that's where that list is. You can look at it. The United States munitions list, right? This has to deal with people that supply the government with parts or any of this, right? So you might want to reference this. We talked about the International Traffic in Arms regulations, those ITAR regulations. So there is the link to that particular list. And then the Power Platform, right? The feature availability from Microsoft Docs, right? That's where this particularly came from. Okay. Again, I very much apologize. A couple of my slides were hidden there. That's annoying. But that is really what I wanted to go over with you today. Just sort of high level. Again, what is CMMC? Where is Microsoft there? How is your implementation going to be affected by this? And links of where you can go to get more information about it, because we're all sort of scrambling to get the latest and greatest information about what do we need to do to be on the leading edge of this. So at that particular point, I thank you for the time. Allie, do we have any questions that have come in the chat or not yet?
Yeah. Not yet, but thank you, Sean, for the presentation today. And apologies to the audience members about the little technical issue that we had with the slides. So we're now going to open it to for questions. There is a question feature under your GoToWebinar handle where you can type in your questions if you have any. All right, I will give you a few moments if any questions comes in.
Allie, will my contact information be provided to the viewers here, or how can people contact Columbus or me directly with any additional questions?
Yes, so we will be sharing, as mentioned earlier, we will be sharing a replay of this webinar, and within that replay, Sean's contact information will be included, as well as where you can have more information within our Columbus website.
Excellent.
Okay, so if no further questions from the audience, I want to thank you all for joining today's session, and you may now disconnect.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.